Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Talking Trikes. I'm Darcy. I've been involved in the sport for 8 years now, and we just want to start this up so we can get some awesome community engagement in this interesting time known as coronavirus. So today joining me, I've got Lierich. So to most people, Carl doesn't need an explanation of his achievements and what he's done in the sport, but he can give one anyway for those who don't know who the man, the myth, the legend is himself. So take it away, Carl.
Yeah, so I've been involved in the sport for as long as I can remember now, many years. I started back in primary school racing in breakthrough, and then kind of just led from there. And I've raced every race probably there is, and still racing to this day. So looking forward to getting back to some racing, obviously post COVID. So that's my story.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's a tough time for everyone, as the media keeps telling us. But it is difficult not being able to race for such a long period of time. So just a brief explanation of me. I started racing 8 years ago in a trike called Triple P, Paradise Primary School. It was an absolute turd of a trike. It was the slowest thing in history.
Yeah.
Couldn't roll,
yeah.
That's a good thing. But humble beginning start, racing in Nord X, Focus, jumping up to the big league this year and seeing where things go. So I know you've moved to Queensland, Carl, a bit out of the way from when you used to live in Bendigo. So how's that been treating you, man?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Obviously moved to Brisbane to start up my own business, and that took off great. And then a few months later, COVID hits, and it kind of went all up in the air. But to be honest, it gave me a good chance to kind of train and spend a lot of time in the garage and spend a lot of stupid hours on the bike. But I'm really enjoying it, and it's nice and warm, like I can go out in summer kit still, and it's nearly July, and that's pretty unheard of. All my mates back home, they're not even wanting to venture out, and here I am riding in summer kit, so pretty good, and getting back to work and enjoying things again. So yeah, slow road, but enjoying it.
Man, I'm so jealous. I have to sometimes thaw my toes out because it's so cold here. Ugh.
Yeah,
lucky man.
And how about you, mate? Like, how's Adelaide been? Been cold there, or have you been getting out on the bike, or what's been happening for you?
Yeah, it's been tough, man. It's been different and tough since I've dropped out. Well, didn't drop out, but graduated high school. Worked into the big league, so I've been doing university as well as working at a bike shop, which you'd think would entice more cycling, but it's actually done the opposite. But I'm still getting out. I'm hitting up the trainer, and when I can, getting out on the bike, even though it is stupidly cold. Haven't had much trike time though, unfortunately. But we're slowly working back into it as our restrictions drop, because we've done pretty good with old COVID. So, but other than that, man, it's been okay. A bit of a drop, but it's not been too bad.
Okay. So are you still allowed to go to Vic Park, or what's allowed? Yeah.
We're just we're currently working with the organisation to have it booked for trainings. So we're doing lots of sort of means of preparation for when trike training can get back, because Vic Park is generally where we like to train. AIPP always hire the venue out, and it's awesome for us to train. Plenty of teams get out, but working back into it whilst being sanitary is difficult, because although trikes are fun, they're not the most sanitary little vehicles, especially with all that sweat and lovely stuff that's inside there. So, but getting out and training by yourself is still number one priority for me, just staying on top of it, even though it is difficult. So yeah, the season thus far, let's just say we didn't get too far. There was one race held in Lang Lang, brand new series race for the Vics. That was taken out by Toothless with D-Town as second. Thought that was a pretty good starter race, and it would have been a really good matchup as well as sort of lead into the series, especially for the guys in water racing. I think that them taking that out, it's a good step forward into maybe getting the momentum to carry it further through the series. So what do you reckon about that, man?
Yeah, like I think obviously they had an awesome year last year and came out on top when it mattered. And to start the season off, I know it was a Victorian race, but a win's a win. Obviously, we've only had one race, and they're sitting saying, "Well, we're 1-0, so they got to be happy with that." I know that COVID hit, but I'm sure they're keen to hit the track again and show us what they've got. So good stuff.
Straight after that, it was just like dominoes falling. Wonthaggi fell, then beginning series of the ARPP fell, some more big series fell. And so currently we're looking at a race starting up in the 15th of August in Adelaide. So what do you reckon are the chances of them actually being able to run that event? Because it's an Australian series, and do you think it will be fair for the ARPP to run it even though restrictions may not be lifted yet fully, especially for the Victorians?
Yeah, it's a tough kind of question to answer. I think it would be great regardless for an event to go ahead, whether it's just South Australian teams that can compete. And I think it will only put that fire in the belly for the Victorian teams and the rest of Australia to get back to racing. The way that things have been going, everyone was kind of making good progress, and then this past week or so, Victoria really took a sideways step. From what I'm thinking, I believe it will go ahead, but it's kind of just been nearly week by week with updates on cases and numbers and data and stuff like that. So I believe it will, and I hope it does, and I hope that everyone can get there and race, because I think it'd be an amazing race. Like getting through all this, and everyone will be very eager to hit the track, including myself, and I'm sure you as well. And it'll be fireworks, I think, on those first few laps. It'll be pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting race if it does go ahead, for sure. I think a lot of fresh minds out there that haven't worn themselves in through some of the earlier rounds. It could be interesting, especially for the marshals. But I think people would take it easier. Well, you'd hope they'd take it easier, because if you go full out guns blazing on the first lap, there could be trouble. But I think overall, we hope that the restrictions drop, because you don't really want just a South Australian team to clean it up. You want great competition, you want heaps of people out there, and you want to see a really close, fun race. So although I think it will go ahead, especially for South Australia, we're doing really well with our coronavirus cases, of course, but I think overall you'd really want it to be a full Australian event, because it is the Australian International Pedigree Series.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree.
Last season, what happened? That was one of the best seasons Pedigree's ever seen. I think Ironbark coming out on top was one of the best races and closest races I've seen. Just the grit of all the teams out there was awesome. So what happened there, Carl?
Look, it was a great race, and credit to the Wattle crew and Ironbark. They put it to us. I raced for Relentless, and we were going for the three-peat, and we were pretty keen for that. And look, they just came ready to race, and they just took it to us, and we were kind of just like, it's honestly during the race it just felt like we were just chasing their tail the whole race and never quite getting there. Obviously racing's racing. Things happen, and we just, to be totally honest, we weren't up to it. They were the better team. Yeah, they just raced a better race, and they were the better team on the day. That's incidents happen, crashes happen. You have we had a lot of incidents where the wheel alignment or the trike was just running slow, but that's just part of racing. Things happen.
Absolutely.
And you can't go away and say, oh, we lost the race because of this or that. We lost the race because they just outperformed us. And credit to them, because they've been chomping at the bit for quite a few years, and they honestly deserve the win. but the top few teams, like, PHP, Trikes, there were some really, really good teams. Even Darlene, like, these teams are just flying around, and I've been riding, at a higher level for quite a few years, and geez, there's some quick teams out there. I can say that, yeah.
Yeah, man, they're getting closer. Like, they're nipping at your heels. I think Unhinged is really coming into their own. But G-Trikes with the new Matrix Pro, that thing is absolutely hooking. Like, you're just riding along, tapping along, and all you see is this just pink and purple blue just fly past you. And like, what's going on here? But no, it was an awesome race. I think the Waddle guys, it was their year. They did beat you, and that was really well done to them. I think that they really deserved it. They've been working so hard for this, and the support was for them. I think it's always good to see the underdog get up, but they weren't the underdog. They were always the big dogs.
Yeah, they're definitely, like, all year, they're like the most consistent team. Every race, they're the hardest team to beat, especially in a 6 hour. They're just so consistent, like, every single lap. And I guess it was just their time. It clicked for them, and they got things right. Their trike was super fast, and we just couldn't catch them. They got a lead, and we just couldn't get them back. So
I think overall was cool, but there are so many more stories. I think a big story was in category S1, the primary schoolers. Seeing Wimmera and Coromandel Black Betty fight it out was cool. It was cool to see them go faster than they've ever gone before, and they were really cool. They were really cool to watch. In the end, Wimmera won it in the end. Close behind was Black Betty, but it was really cool to see these really young kids just flying around. And like, at training days, I'm just tapping around, just doing my thing, and then suddenly you see this primary school kid just like start coming up on you, like, what's going on here? So it's really good to see them. I think that's a really cool opening story between the kids from the country versus the kids from the Adelaide Hills. So it's good to see how that'll turn out in the future. But along with that, not trying to toot my own horn, but I think the race in S3 for the senior schools was something special as well. I know I was a part of that journey between Northern Out of Focus, that was me, and Vector from St. Peter's. That was fun. It was really close in the end. We all became good mates, and we all loved what the racing came. So it came really close in the end, but I think on our end, we dropped the ball, had a couple of crashes, and just not the greatest start as well. Like, I had my first crash in years, and that was an experience to say the least. But credit to the guys from St. Peter's. I think they were just hooking all year, and that white tricep, every time I saw it, just give me chills. No. So that was awesome, and I think in the end they really deserved the win. They were just so consistent, and although both teams had a fair share of unlucky moments, they were the consistent guys that we needed to beat, and unfortunately we couldn't get the bread. But this year, maybe for the Focus guys, and we'll see how the Saints goes with St. Peter's. So, but that's another opening. With Pembroke coming into the mix, I think this season will be a really interesting toss-up between the three teams. The guys from Pembroke are really quick. They won the 2 Adelaide races overall, being a junior high team. So they're just so fast, and I think that us senior boys, the senior boys better watch out, because these new young guns are coming to take their throne, I reckon. All right, so last season we saw a whole bunch of new trike designs. I think PHP bringing out, and Trikes, of course, bringing out the Aquila Free as well as the Hornet. Those trikes are fast. I've tried the Hornet, and wow, that thing is quick. But also the Matrix Pro that was introduced earlier in the year. That thing is an absolute rocket. So I think for contenders this year, it'll be interesting to see who steps it up. I think G-Trikes definitely have the rider base to step it up, and they know a lot of people that can make that trike fly. But also PHP, there's going to be a lot of competitors that are really going to be eyeing for that top spot. And I think if it's all going to be it's all going to come down to who's done the hard work now. When you've got Corona, no one knows what's going on, and whoever's the most dedicated. So what's your take on the contenders for this year, man?
Yeah, I think really, like, if anyone turns up on the day and they put together like a great race, credit to them, and anyone's really in a chance these days. It's that quick. Waddle obviously going, back to back would be pretty big for them, and I know that they'd be really keen for that. And personally, they've definitely got the pace, and they've got all the riders there. And I saw Aurora was on the start list for Wonthaggi, so whether that is a comeback number 3 that we might see after COVID, I'm not sure. That was the main team that I started racing with, and super quick. Azza always produces one hell of a trike, so I'm sure he's got something up his sleeve there. Interesting note, Steele von Hoff returning to trike racing in 2019, and sneaky little rumour there that he's pushing some of the True Blue guys to get back together and bring back the band. And it'd be pretty interesting. I know that everyone wants to see it, so if he can make it happen, who knows? But I think everyone on the racing scene would be super keen and super probably scared to see them back on the track. But I, for one, would love to see it happen and see that blue rocket out there again. So who knows? But it could be a really interesting year. Like, who knows where everyone's fitness is at? But I think it could be one hell of a show.
Yeah, well, having True Blue back and Aurora, just dominated the series with their rocket of a HP trike. And True Blue, what a team they were. I think they were so consistently good. And whenever they came to a race, they were always one of the dominant forces. But you can't not mention Relentless Racing and Waddle Racing. Of course you can't mention them. They've been dominating recently. They've always been the top 2. And although you have mention of these older teams that have that experience, you've still got these 2 almost titans of the sport that are still going to go at each other. So I think I've seen a lot of videos from Waddle. I think they've been testing, they've been riding, they've been tapping around the velodrome in Bendigo. Likewise for Relentless, I've ridden past Vic Park and seen them trying out these new white rocket things. Yeah. But I think it's going to be one hell of a season, especially if Aurora do make a comeback, or if True Blue make a comeback. That'd be absolutely terrifying, but awesome nonetheless. So I think it's going to be an interesting series nonetheless. That's it, really.
Spot on, mate. Yeah, spot on.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us for episode 1 of Talking Trikes. It's really good to get back and start talking about trikes, HPV, pedal pre. It's definitely something I've missed in my life. It's been pretty sad. But I think next week we have some pretty interesting stuff that's going to happen. And I hope more that people can tune in. So what have we got planned next week, Kyle?
Yeah, next week we've got a couple of special interviews with some past riders, some past winners, and a few special mentions there. So make sure you stay tuned for episode 2 of Talking Trikes, and we'll see you then.